We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is the three Amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United weekend, and it's a big welcome to George, to Steve, and to Mitch tonight. Hi, lads.
Hi, everybody.
Great to see that George's alarm clock's working and he's decided to join us on the start of the show. As always, plenty to talk about on the show tonight. And Martin Ziegler's tweet was sent to me by Steve Hasty and the lads today. Premier League clubs have approved tougher new rules on associated party deals, sponsorship and player transfers by the closest of votes, 12 votes to 6, with 2 abstaining. One club, suggested to be Man City, has warned the Premier League it could face legal action. Mitch, a bit to digest for our first topic.
Just a little bit. There's a number of things come out of this that I think are worth touching on. Firstly, looking at related party sponsorships and transfers, etc. It's interesting that comes up. The week Man City have done a transfer that involves 2 of their other feeder clubs from abroad. The player on loan to Girona from Troyes, both part of City Group, transfers directly to Man City from Troyes, having never played for Troyes and always been on loan at Girona. And for an amount that everybody's got some raised eyebrows at, and they've claimed that there was bids from Germany and England in competition to the bid from Man City. Yeah. It sits like the parts of the 117 charges that are against them already that are fighting. Of course, they're going to fight back against it and say, well, let's take this to court. Ironically, when they want something, they'll want it to court quick. When they're in trouble, they'll want to kick the can down the road. The other thing, obviously, is the related partners sponsorship vote, 12-6, with 2 abstentions. And I was talking to Phil Hook on Twitter about this earlier, if people saw, and he did a load of work to help me with working out the mystery and not mystery that was the 9-2 Foundation in Qatar. Somebody who knows what he's talking about. And he looked at this vote and said, well, hang on, an abstention's still a vote. And so written into the FA rules or into the Premier League rules, that if there are abstentions or no votes, then it will pass with a majority of 2/3. So 12-6 is exactly that. Exactly that. However, if an abstention's still a vote and you ignore it, that smacks of a multi-million-pound corporation being run like an old boys club. And does that stand up to legal challenge? And it probably wouldn't, actually. Even though everybody signed up to that, I think somebody with the right lawyer could probably pick holes in that. And so here we are again, a bump in the road that exposes the Premier League are not really powerful enough to enforce their own rules. The way they've had to go to an independent commission to make sure the Everton sanctions happened, because I think if they'd done it themselves, they'd have probably left themselves open to a bigger appeal than what Everton actually have. And it exposes more that this is kowtowing to certain clubs and certain people within that organisation to keep a status quo. However, it also looks to me like we've seen this coming. Where we've pitched all of our related party sponsorships, people were like, well, could that not be more? Well, now you see why there weren't more. They've been quite clever where they've pitched these agreements. They've pitched them at a level where even under hard scrutiny, harder scrutiny than what they've had, they would almost certainly stand up to that scrutiny. And this is where we keep saying the people in charge of our club are smarter or can employ smarter people than the Premier League ever will. I cannot wait to see if it's leaked who the abstentions were. Which turkeys are happy to vote for Christmas. Why would you want to keep a status quo when you're trying to catch people up and the rules have been put in place? Yes, more hurriedly so when we appeared on the scene with Saudi money. But it's all about protectionism for that top six. I'll be very interested to see when the new sustainability rules come in, how they're pitched. Again, something else that there seems to be three different models bouncing around. It looks likely that will come into line with UEFA. But still, none of those sustainability rules take into account one thing which would cripple most of the top six clubs, or the so-called big six, and would certainly cripple Barcelona and Real Madrid, which is how much debt burden they have. Because FFP was never about the debt burden. It was always about your ability to pay that debt. And therefore, it never came into the equation. It's why Mike Ashley's Newcastle United was held up when we qualified for Europe under Pardew as this is the way it should go. And turns out we were an exception that proves the rule. But it's also why we were such a good value buy for PIF, ironically. But it doesn't work. Or when it does work, it's fluke. And so I think there's a heck of a lot going on. There's a heck of a lot more to unravel. I think this is the end of the beginning of the posturing. I think over the weekend we're probably going to hear a lot more leak out because, again, the Premier League like to say they keep everything tight, but there's always ways that they leak stuff out, and they leak stuff out sometimes very unsubtly, to be honest with you now. I'll be interested to see if there's any thoughts from the top end of our club going forward. If there's any more sort of pithy or cryptic statements to come from Darren Eales. But certainly there's a lot more to unravel yet. And you were asked the other night when you did your Wraiths rant about us and how we do things, Steve, and you were saying you should see some of the WhatsApp groups. Well, tonight, I think because we've not had a chance to talk about it yet this week, you're seeing this sort of spitballing that we do on WhatsApp Live. We're running with it, because the stuff we know, there's a hell of a lot we don't know. And by the way, just seeing the strapline there, Simon, hope you're recovering well, mate. He had a nose up as well yesterday, and he sent me a very sad-looking picture this morning, which... So not only has he got a sore nose, he's seeing cars being washed away. That's not a good day to have in San Diego, that's for sure. Get well soon, mate.
Yeah, get well soon, mate. And if you haven't seen his interview with me on the news, give it a watch. Thanks for putting us in really touch, Mitch.
So that's that's my take on it initially. I'm sure Steve can add some things around that.
Yeah, he can. Roddy, good evening, mind. He says, evening, guys. Rarely manage to catch the shows live as life gets in the way, but I never miss a show on catch up. He says, since the Insta live days, right back at the start, the nufc Matters channel reigns supreme. Thanks very much, Roddy. Means a lot. And yeah, Steve, interesting that you were the first to stick that in the WhatsApp group to show us. But another bump in the road, Mitch describes it as.
Yeah, he did. What fascinates me is, first of all, who abstained. Why would you abstain on something as important as this? Which two clubs decided not to vote on probably the most important vote that they were going to see for an awful long time? That's the first thing.
And why?
Why is the next question. Who was it and why? Mitch touched on something there. He said, eventually we'll find out. The Premier League leaked like a sieve. In other words, clubs in the Premier League leaked like a sieve. I was listening to another podcast, one of the national podcasts, and I listen to it regularly. And one of the presenters on there said that there are multiple WhatsApp groups involving multiple numbers of people in executive roles at the Premier League and multiple journalists, and they all talk to each other. And sometimes the reports hit the newspapers, like the Martin Ziegler, for example, telling us what's happened before there's ever been a statement from the Premier League. Certain members of the Premier League, certain chairmen, chief executives, want stuff out there immediately because it suits their club. So he says that, the word is that they leak like a sieve, and it's certain people all the time, the same people all the time, the same chairman all the time from the same clubs who just want to talk and talk and talk because that's the nature of the personalities within the Premier League. We talk about spinning plates. God knows how many plates are spinning within those Premier League meetings. Who's stabbing who in the back? Who's watching every single move the other one makes? One says black, the other one says white. They all claim they're all green. You name it. I mean, it must be a nightmare to try and control.
We've talked about this within football for the last few years.
Yeah.
That the ability of teams to work together for the greater good always falls apart once personal interest starts to set in. And,
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter whether it's the Premier League, the Championship, League One, League Two. It doesn't matter.
No.
Just doesn't matter. That somebody will want to press their own agenda home on top of everything else, or look like they're supporting somebody that they think they're going to get benefit from down the line.
Exactly, and that's it in a nutshell, Mitch. In a nutshell, like that. This is what these clubs are like. I mean, an interesting that we talk about the legal challenge and City coming out and saying, the Premier League needs to be very careful. There may be a legal challenge here. But it was interesting. Anyone who follows Keith, and I know most of you do, who watch the show, and somebody asked him that question about the possibility of a legal challenge on Twitter earlier this morning, and I think Keith came up with an interesting little aside, which was, well, if it's Newcastle United, a lot depends on what they said when they signed up to the takeover. Was there something there that, perhaps Newcastle United said, we'll stick to the rules, we'll abide by the rules, and we'll avoid the court at all costs? Maybe it was something that was tied into the takeover final decision. Who knows? And that probably holds a little bit more weight tonight, having heard City as the club who said there might be a legal challenge. Not Newcastle United. Everybody out there thinks it's Newcastle United and the Saudis who are going to go and rock the boat. And this has been going on for 2.5 seasons now. It's always going to be Newcastle United this, Newcastle United that. And as Mitch said earlier, as a football club, we seem to have, from the very first day of the takeover, in legal terms, done everything right, everything by the book. In fact, being whiter than white, sometimes too white to get decisions or to abide by decisions that really are sometimes strangling this football club of ours. Things that have happened in the past that we've had to fall into line with and we haven't gone to court with, which we probably could have. For the greater good of football, perhaps we could argue, for the greater good of Newcastle United, for harmony, you name it. It could be any one of a number of reasons, or it could be legal. It could be that we've signed up to something that forbids us from doing it, just to keep the status quo, just to keep the balance right. I think, again, that'll come out in the wash because there'll be certain people in the Premier League who'll want to shout their mouth off about that. We could rattle off half a dozen clubs. I can think of one in London who would be shouting their mouth off, if not two. And from some of the podcasts that I listen to, there's one in particular who has a chairman or chief executive stroke owner who just loves to let his mouth go. And I think this is the nature of the game as we know it, Steve. But no, there will be a legal challenge at some point that will blow the whole of the Premier League apart. I'm certain of that. Whether it comes over this or whether it's something else incidental. But I think City now have more charges up against them than Donald Trump has against him. So this is the way it seems to be going. I think there must be in some sort of competitive race between City and Trump to see who can get as many charges as they can go and who can drag it out for the longest. But no, I don't think it's been a very good day for Newcastle United because it's profit and sustainability rules. It's tinkering around at the edges. It's something that's going to allow that status quo to grow. It's not index linked. None of the things that they're talking about are index linked in terms of profit and sustainability. And as far as the changes that they're shouting their mouth off about third party, that is definitely aimed at us. The door's shut on City, but it's definitely aimed at us because we're the only one who hasn't used that escape route yet. And it's looking more and more like we'll never will. Just because of where the PIF clubs are located. I think if PIF had decided to chip in and bought clubs from South America or from North America or from the Far East, then it might have been different, or even in Europe. But the very fact that it's Saudi Arabia, in Saudi, it's in the number of clubs, all owned by one and all in the same league. And let's face it, the other clubs are going to benefit, not us, because they'll be allowed to trade with those clubs in Saudi Arabia. We're already seeing players desperately wanting to come back for one reason or another, one circumstance or another. And Steve, you talked about that on a podcast earlier in the week and on your radio show. So you're well aware of who I'm talking about there as well.
The trouble is, if you look at that initial statement about what they were going to look at was the sustainability changes, all of these things about must have 20 million or 25 million liquidity, you must be able to cover debts if you get into trouble, etc., etc., etc. On the face of it, we should be able just to point at PIF's balance sheet and say, no problem.
Yeah.
But we know it's not going to be that simple. It can't be. If it is, we will drive a coach and horses through it all in the summer.
Yeah.
I can't see anybody allowing that to happen. And so the longer this goes on and the more that comes out, the more I'm thinking, yeah, where's the catch? Where's this catch?
Well,
and bring it in the line with UEFA certainly gives us a problem because of the wages to turnover situation.
Exactly. That's the big problem. The wages to turnover, I think we can creep up to 187 million. Chelsea are sitting there hovering around 450. Arsenal similar. I think City were 600. Man United not far off as well. Liverpool hovering around the 500. So you're thinking the equilibrium's still there. They're still running away with it. They're still holding everybody back. Newcastle will be held back. Villa will be held back. Everton, Nottingham Forest, all of the clubs.
Anybody who dares to want to challenge the status quo.
Yeah, so the status quo will remain. The gap state, it's just going to be couched in different language. It's going to be called something different. But in terms of what you can do and what you can't do, we can do it, you can't. That's the top and bottom of it.
George, what's your thoughts on this then?
Well, if I told you the truth, you would have to switch us off because the air would get blue or pink or green. Can I lighten the mood? Good to see on the strap that Ian's up and about and coming back onto Fans Forum. And just to please two ladies, hi Emily and Louise. There you are. That's lightened the mood, hasn't it? I'll be on Instagram later on, girls. So anyway, yeah, I mean, to sit here as a football fan, and that's primarily where I am. When I think of how, as in the Gallagher corner, we used to get upset because Lord Westwood was sitting in the royal box at the bloody cup final and all that sort of thing. This puts all that into insignificance. I mean, we're talking about the difference between a shoplifter and Al Capone with the level of absolute disgrace that this Premier League is. Anybody with one eye looking at those things can see straight away that they've sat in a room and worked out before they come to any meeting how they could knacker Newcastle United. I'm sorry to put it as bluntly as that, but that's how it feels to a football fan. You know, it really is too much. And it's got to, what I find fascinating is that you lads mentioned 2 clubs abstained. Well, if I was a fan of either of those clubs, I'd be organising a bloody march to this football stadium tomorrow. St James's Park would see me at the front of the queue protesting, I can tell you. Because how can you abstain on something that's going to be vital to the future of your club, being left behind by the top 6 clubs who think that they're beyond everything and above everything, and they only do that because the Premier League lets them. They wouldn't be their top 6 if there wasn't collusion between them and the Premier League. And if that's not corruption or anti business, I don't know what is. And as the lads are saying, that maybe it's where you agree to be good lads and follow the rules. If the rules are knackered, you cannot follow them because it makes you as bad as they are. That's even worse because you're not sticking up for what's important, and not sticking up as far as I'm concerned. For me as a fan, I want my club to be up there. I don't want my club to be held second best for the next God knows how many years. And these rules clearly designed to do exactly that. I'm just gobsmacked that there's not already a legal challenge to this. There must be one coming down the road, and for it to come from City, I'm amazed it isn't us, because I've been waiting for a few weeks now to see something saying, well, we're not putting up with this. We want a proper say. And as Neil puts it, for the turkeys that voted for Christmas, again, if I was a fan of those clubs, God, I'd be writing me letters and me emails now. Me bloody laptop would be hot. I'd be so upset. I mean, it just beggars belief that people are prepared to accept second best. I'll accept second best at a fair competition, but how do you accept second best when 6 at the front have got a 100-meter start on you in a 200-meter race? As you can see, it really has got my goat. And it's only got my goat because I'm a fan. I want my club at the top. And nobody's waxed more lyrical about this takeover than I have, because I've appreciated everything about it. Yes, I've grumbled about some of the inside things about, I've mentioned the word tickets and things like that, but still absolutely full of admiration for the way it's all happened and all positively, all the good things we've had in the last couple of years. But I've got to say, lads, this smoke-filled room thing that's happening in the background at the Premier League's not going to bloody shine off it. In fact, I'm sure we're going to talk about other things that are going to knock the shine off me football as well. But I don't know if you lads get where I'm getting at. It's so frustrating that nothing has happened, that I really, really can't imagine that after this summer that Newcastle United will put up with this. Certainly if Manchester City on, then we shouldn't either. And so, as you can gather, spit and blood is how I would describe myself. But it's only frustration out of what I see being done directly against my club. And that's all.
Well said, George. Well said, George. Getting a lot of support in the chat. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Over 400 watching, only 25 minutes in. Never take it for granted, though. Thank you very much. And people asking, what's this event? What's this event? July the 20th. We haven't announced it properly yet, and tickets aren't on sale yet. If you remember, and you've paid your £25 one-off fee, you will get a ticket for free. But what we're going to do is we're going to do NUFC Matters Live. It's going to be our end of season do. It's going to be on the 20th of July at the Tyneside Irish Centre. We're going to have Supermat and Gibbo on stage. We're also going to have a local band playing. We're also going to have Ask George live. And we're also going to have myself and Steve Hasty doing a little bit on stage as well. So if there's anybody else available, I'm sure they'll be up for doing something on stage as well. But it's going to be
date, Steve?
It's going to be the 20th of July. It's going to be a ticketed event, and obviously we're going to invite members, but we're also going to film it. It's going to be a little bit different this, so it's not going to be a spontaneous show where everything runs in order. We're going to be filming it like a TV show. We're going to cut it, we're going to edit it, and then we're going to stick it out on the channel. And if it's a success and it does well, we're going to put it out. You know,
do you want me to try and get back for that?
Be great if you could, Mitch. It would be great to do a live Amigos with you there as well. That would be fantastic. See if you can. That would be fantastic. But we're going to do it, and obviously any money raised on the night that we've got as a profit will, as usual, donate it to a couple of charities, and it'll probably be the food bank on this occasion again, but also Dementia Matters, which is a charity which I've been helping this year. So something a little bit different. Bill Corcoran's going to be there as well. He's going to do a little bit on the show about the food bank and talk about the food bank. So he's going to do an interview for the show. So it's something different. Something I think you'll all enjoy. So as I say, the members will get an opportunity to come for free as part of your £25 fee that you've paid. But the rest of those tickets will go on sale. I think it'll be a nominal fee of £10. I think that's what we're looking at, because obviously we do have to put some tickets to one side for the band to sell so that they can try and make some money. We've offered them 50% of their ticket sales, so should be a good night. Something a little bit different. One for the diary. That's July the 20th, and I believe that's a Friday. So you should stick it in your diary if you fancy it. More details will be announced soon. As always on a Friday, plenty to get through. And I know some people don't like the music, but I do. The day I'm at, where we ask you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present. And this came from someone who I'm not quite sure who it is. He looks like a very happy chap, sitting in the middle. It's George. It's George. He was with Ando and Gibbo, and we asked if we could stick this on the day I met. George asked us last week if we could stick it on. So there we go, George. That was you meeting two of the lads. And
Thanks,
good
Steve.
crack. It was good crack pre-match, George, wasn't it? Me, you were there. Johnny Allen was there.
It was a great day. Great afternoon before the match, yeah.
Yeah, good afternoon before the match. So if you've got a photo like George, send it in to us. Go to our Facebook group or Facebook page. You just need to like it or join it, or send it to us on Twitter, and we will feature on the show so you can have your speakers blown up at home. I can see Barry suggesting doing the fans forum live on stage as well, which could get a bit lively if Ian's had a couple of drinks. But yeah, it's going to be a good one. So hopefully, Pablo, you can join us as well, mate. But yeah, we'll put more details out there for everyone who's on the show. I'll obviously stick an invite out as well. Can we have Mr. Vicky's live? Yeah, they did come, Jules, to the Keegan Waddle Beardsley event. I allowed him to have a stall there, and he was blown away by meeting the guys backstage. So it was nice to give Mr. Vicky something back after his wonderful sponsorship throughout the whole, through the whole COVID period. And now, continuing to support the show. Big thanks to him. Okay, I know some people don't like the politics, so let's talk football. And I guess the biggest decision tomorrow is a tactical one. No, I would say more a positional one. Dan Byrne, Eddie Howe spoke about it today, Mitch, in the press conference. He was asked very specifically about Dan Burn by 3-4 different reporters, trying to get a story out of him, get a byline out of him. He waxed lyrical about Dan, said that he's done a hell of a lot for the club. He said he's one of the most important signings that he's made in his time at the club, that he's been playing through the pain barrier. He broke his back. He says that is the technical term of the injury that he had, and he's come back early, as so many players have done because they've had to, because of the injuries that we've had. But didn't have a very good game last week. And, ultimately came off the back of a man of the match performance against Aston Villa, it has to be said, which is something that Eddie Howe also pointed out today. But it doesn't stop questions coming in from people who watch the show, like Sutty. Should Burn start at left back tomorrow? Personally, I'd start Tino. When he came on against Luton, he seemed to limit their chances down the left. Yes, Burn gives a physical presence, but Tino gives us pace. And John Askew, what did he have to say about it? Well, he's always got an opinion. He said, even in all, does Eddie's presser underlie a clear disconnect between himself and the vast majority of mags over the left back position? Did Eddie say, if you get a chance, take it? Tino did. And again, a tactical one from John. Would we be better playing 4 in midfield when Joe Linton's unavailable? It might just be me, but we seem very lightweight in the engine room. Again, that was something that Eddie pointed out today, that, again, somebody asked him about Joe Linton not playing. Is that having an effect on the left back position? Clearly it is, because Joe Linton can get up and down. He's, he can attack, but he can defend. And, I made the point more than one occasion on the show this week that I felt that was probably the big problem with Dan Burn last week, that the midfield were letting him down, and the 2 players that he played in front of him weren't up to scratch due to fitness issues over the last few weeks. So lots to take in. I'll tell you where I'm at. I think he'll play Dan Burn tomorrow. Mitch?
I think you may be right. At the end of the day, it's Eddie's call. He's the manager. He sees everything in training every day. I find it...
Yeah.
That's about Josh picking his tickets up. I find it amazing and very much part of the reactionary way our fans are at the minute on social media in particular, that Eddie Howe has to come out in a press conference, defend Dan Burn, but also then come out and say there's no greater supporter of Tino than me, and explain why he likes both players. Either way, for me, the bigger problem is we don't have a shoe-in functional left full-back at the moment. We have somebody who's principally a centre-back playing left-back, and he has his limitations in terms of pace. You can't question anything else for him. I've seen examples of him being a leader in many more ways than just in Premier League games. When they were over here this time last year playing Al Hilal, and Burn was the most senior defender on the pitch, he was playing at left full back, organising that entire young back four. And that's why he's loved in the dressing room. Tino is right-footed. And that, for me, can be a problem at left back. Is a right footer who played at left back most of the time he played football. I'm still not a lover of that. And then that brings another conversation into play. Well, what about Hall? And where are we at with him? And it's quite difficult because I think at Christmas, Forest showed on Boxing Day that they've got pace out wide to Burn. And that does seem to be the 2 things that Burn seems to struggle with is pace and mobility. When Villa worked them out, when we went to Villa, they pulled them all over the pitch, and so did Man City. Equally though, if Dan Burn does start, there will be a reaction from some on social media, and I think we've got to back the manager. We'll back the manager and we'll back the team. That's picked across the line. The one thing what I would say for both Dan Burn and Tino Livramento, we know if they cross that white line in a black and white shirt, they're going to give away everything they've got. And they've both got their limitations, at left fullback. For me, personally, I think Byrne does struggle when Joe Linton's not in front of him and he's exposed. And that's what happened at the weekend. He got exposed a couple of times. Did Tino do better? Yeah, I think he did when he come on. I think he did shut the chances down. But did we look as solid from set players when they were bombing the ball in the box? Probably not. And that's the other thing that Joe Linton gives away. If you look at the stats on clearances from the 18-yard box, number 1 is Botman, number 2 is Joe Linton, number 3 is Dan Byrne. That's what they're there to do when they play together. So that begs the question to me, and I get why some people say, should we be changing our system to cope with our midfield inadequacies, to give our defence a bit more cover, but then that's going to take more out of whoever's playing up top. And can we trust Wilson to go 90 minutes doing that? I don't think so. Who then plays number 10, and how does that role work? It's something we've never done. Another option would be, do we drop Trippier across the left? Because quite as Sean rightly says, Trippier's done that for England and does that for England. And then you allow Tino to come in on the right-hand side into his more natural position. That might be a smarter move in some ways, because I think Trippier's over the mental stuff he was dealing with when he had that awful run of form. I think that's long behind him now. And he very clearly wants to stay and be here after interest from Bayern Munich. And I'll say this again. Us resisting Bayern Munich was big club thinking. That was a statement to our players and a statement to everybody else in football. You're not going to come and have our trousers down like you used to. As I said, there's not a chairman in my lifetime wouldn't have taken Bayern Munich's money and snapped their hand off. And most of them would have pocketed half of it. By resisting Bayern Munich, we're making a statement to football. And so, is that a better way to get more out of Trippier and use his experience to swoop him across the other side and drop Tino into the right-hand side? There's loads of ways we could solve it. The man who is there to pick it is the only one who will give his solution to solve it. And as Don rightly says, we don't pick the team, but we can support it, even if we disagree with it. We can heartily disagree with something, but still support the lads when they take that pitch. And I think that's what we've got to keep in mind. At the minute, I see so much on social media, and Steve and I did have a chat about this through the week about a couple of things, but everything has to be about sides. My side, your side, right side, wrong side. And this is another one where I see those arguments developing amongst our own. And the side we're on is Newcastle United. We'll back whatever team is put out and hope that Eddie's going with the right decision based on what he sees day in, day out on the training pitch. And that's all we can do. And hope that they get it right and hope that it clicks. We're all Nottingham Forest one, so I'd like to see them get it right. I know they had a very difficult cup. We'll probably talk about this later. But, you know, we have an ability to solve all of this with the players that we'll have available. Yes, I would like to have more players available, but that's coming, apparently. And so let's just hope that solution's forthcoming. And we've just got to back whoever crosses that line and stick with it.
Okay, what's your thoughts on this one, George? Dan Byrne?
I'd had some comment about this earlier in the week when we're on, and I haven't changed it. Yes, Dan Byrne did get skinned a couple of times, but if you've played football and you've seen how isolated he was, you're not giving the Luton manager credit for doing his homework, because normally, even with the midfield out of place, and our midfield is a problem at the moment, I'll talk about that in a minute, even with our midfield out of place, normally Dan Byrne getting skinned would have meant that somebody would have had Shaw up their nose or Botman up their nose. But the Luton manager made sure that those two big guys up front for him didn't let Shaw or Botman go anywhere without them being on their heels. So they were kind of man-marked out of helping Burn. And that was the lack of support that made it crucial in the game. I'm like you. If you want us to place a bet on it, in the way Eddie Howe is, he'll pick Dan Burn tomorrow. I've got no doubt about that. It's time though that we've thought about. It's all right having these young lads that are looking good, but they can only look good for so long if they don't get in the first team. And we need to think about getting Tino in the team somehow. Nothing worse than having saying, hey, he was good, but in 5 years down the line, say, yeah, but he never blossomed. Well, he never blossomed because he didn't get a game in the team. Don't want that to happen to them. Don't want that to happen. That would be an absolute disaster. Right-footed left backs. Well, I haven't played left back for an awful lot of my years when I played as a right footer. Guess what? I learned to do it in the back garden with Harry hammering a ball against the back of the wash house with my left foot. It's not hard. It's hard work, but it's not hard to work it out. And right footers can be very capable at left back. Trippier is very capable at left back. And Neil's right. That's partial a solution. But I think we're at the stage where Eddie Howe needs to think about these bright young ones like Livramento and others that when do they get their chance? Because if they don't, they'll disappear, they'll fade, or they'll go somewhere else. And sorry to be that harsh about it, but football's a harsh game. It always has been. The midfield at the moment is all right when we're pressing and we've got the ball, but once we lose it, we're in trouble. And again, the Luton manager did his homework. He put 4 across the middle to swamp our 3. And what he did was he let the ball player, Barkley, have a free hand to run the game. And the other 3 looked after our 3 when our 3 were near enough. And the trouble is our 3 weren't near enough often enough because they were struggling to get back from a failed attack. And that really needs to be addressed as well. So it's not all Dan Burn, I'm afraid. He got no help from the middle of the park on last week. And but I said on last Friday I couldn't see Eddie Howe letting Barkley have the run of the game again after he did it Kenilworth Road. Well, he did. Steve and I were saying from the first 10 minutes, Barkley's running this game. He's running this game, and the more the game went on, the more he did. And I mean, there was times, and he demonstrated what our coach Kevin tells us that once we were flat and he had the ball, he had a through ball, and it just passed all ours by.
Yeah,
and the ball ended up in the back of our net. It's as simple as that. Yeah, so it wasn't Dan Burn's best game, but I'm not for crucifying people in the way some are on the platforms, but it does seriously give Eddie a dilemma. If it happens again at Nottingham Forest, it's very likely because they've got some flyers. It's possible. Then he really has got to do something about it seriously, and so. But it isn't all just that. But midfield's struggling as well at the moment, and I reckon it's there's 2 of them that aren't 100% fit in my opinion. But never mind that's another issue. But Ross Barkley really it just took the game off her, and simply because of the way the manager set them up. The 4 in the middle just swamped our 3. And he left Barkley free to be the ball player, and he played it magnificently. Now, as magnificently as he was, and he's been playing this season, they even talking about him getting picked for England, for God's sake, again. People are saying, well, do you think he would fit? No, I'm not. I don't want him at Newcastle United, because think about his career. every one of the big clubs he's played for, he's had a couple of seasons like we saw on Saturday, and then he disappeared for 5 seasons, and then they get rid of him. And, you know, that says something about his makeup, and perhaps he's doing it well at Luton because he thinks that this is his last chance of seeing it in the Premiership. But no, I wouldn't want him at Newcastle. Yeah. Long answer to a very short question. I think Eddie will pick Dan Burn.
All right, Steve, what's your take on this?
I don't think it's necessarily to do with individual players, but I think it's a combination of the organisation at the back. Burn is leaving holes in his little quarter. He has, over recent games, had this tendency to pull in more towards the centre of the back four. Whether or not he feels as though he's covering for Botman, who just came back from an injury as well. But certainly that connection that Botman and Burn had that allowed Burn to move over. When we're not in possession of the ball, he certainly drifts into the middle. Normally, there's somebody would slot into that hole, into that little square in front of him, his little patch. But there's nobody there at the moment, as you said. Joe Linton's not there to do it. Gordon sometimes, when he's played on the left, has, but Gordon was down the middle. Miggy spends most of his time on the right-hand side, cutting over. But we had Miggy on the left-hand side. But again, he didn't. Miggy's defending tend to be coming inside into the midfield, and he was more supportive of the 3 midfielders, where there is absolutely no pace, by the way. And I'll say that about Miley as well. For a young 17-year-old, he doesn't have the pace that we've seen of other footballers. Whether he's going to work on that and whether that's an aspect of his game that he does need to work on, I personally think it is. But again, he tended to drift inside. Longstaff drifts inside rather than playing wide and supporting the fullback. So Burn was isolated. He was on his own, and he was also being caught out of position because he was pulling over onto the inside of the 2 centre backs, certainly the one alongside him. So there was a combination of defensive work that needed to be done by the coaches within the setup to get back to having Burn not isolated, not leaving huge spaces, Botman covering at the right particular time, and the midfield who are sitting in front of him doing the work, giving them the outlet ball, because again, the number of times he didn't have an outlet ball and it was just hoofing up the line, especially in the second half. That's the sort of thing that disappoints you. So I think that we've had so many chops and changes of late. We've had so many players out injured. We've got so many players who are playing probably that shouldn't be playing because of injury. Miley probably, in reality, given his age and given where he's come from, probably should have been taken out of the team 3 or 4 or 5 games ago. But he wasn't. And I'm not saying because he wasn't playing very well. I'm saying simply because of his age and simply because of the opportunities. Perhaps there were times because, you know what, we're a fickle bunch with St. James's, and if Miley starts to have poor games, they'll get onto his back as well, because if they can get on the back of Dan Burn and they can get back on the back of Miggy and various other people, Miley will get targeted just as well. It's only a matter of time. So this is the game this is what makes it difficult. And we can talk about as many formation changes as we like, but Eddie will not shift from a 4-3-3. What he'll want the players within the formation to work in the system that he once employed. And at the moment, that system is breaking down at times. At certain parts of the game, and usually when we haven't got the ball, that's when it's breaking down. When we've got the ball, we can line up well. We scored 4 goals, for goodness sake, at home. You know, so to use that American phrase, offensively, we're very, very good. We're still very good offensively, but we're lacking when the teams come at us. We're lacking defensively and we're lacking positionally. And that's the work you'd hope that the 5 days or 6 days that they've had on the training pitch will allow the coaches to sort of adapt to, work on and rectify. So I'm not going to point the finger at Dan Burn. the lad who sits alongside us and the lad who sits behind us, they'll probably agree, although the other lad who sits behind us probably doesn't. And George will know who I'm talking about because he's always a laugh. and it was Dan Burn this week that was getting his angst because we can see the holes, we can see the gaps. But sometimes we're looking for Dan Burn to come and cover the gap, not realising that, well, it was somebody else's job to do that. And Dan was left isolated. And we sit in a very, very good position at St. James's Park, just high up enough to be able to see the squares, to see the area around it, the players, and particularly in the first half when we're attacking the Leazes end, and when we've got Dan Burn lined up virtually in front of us, so he's exposed. We're watching and we can see and we can have that conversation. We do have that conversation, George and myself. And as you pointed out, the conversation this week was also about Barkley. Well, let's not forget is 30-year-old now. We're not talking still about the young Barkley of Everton days. We're talking about a lad whose career, as George rightly said, disappeared. I mean, I think he had his first full England cap 10 years ago. He only got 30 caps in total. But they give England caps away like confetti these days, don't they? When you look at some of the top class players in years gone by who would have really, really struggled to get 30 caps and were still, in my eyes, classed as outstanding footballers. But we've got a player like Barkley who has got 30-odd caps for England, and you wouldn't even noticed it, and you probably couldn't even remember him playing for England, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, on Saturday, he controlled the game. But I'm not going to pin anything on Dan Burn. We just got to rely. Liveramento's time will come. Maybe on Saturday, the change will be Livermento playing in midfield and shoring that little area up. Maybe that's the sort of tactical change that Eddie might foresee and bring into play. But I think one of the mantras that I've said time and time again on this show is that's why Eddie gets paid the big bucks and we don't, because it's his decision, not ours.
Exactly. Yeah, people complain about the adverts. Got no idea what's going on tonight. YouTube changes every week, guys. Some people are saying they've had no ads. There's Mozza. We've had no ads. And then, unfortunately, somebody like Tom and a couple of other people have had 4 or 5. So it sounds like you're getting Mozza's ads. Weird. I've got no idea what is going on. We haven't changed anything. It's exactly the same. Barry's had none. There we go. Barry's had none. Geordie Tuvalay's had 5 so far. It's a world of its own. Sometimes they tell you if you hit the back button to go back to the start of the video and then go back to where you were in the live stream, that sometimes stops it. But it's all down to the algorithm. Mick Mullane's had 1, so there you go. I'm not going to spend the rest of the night talking about adverts. I'm saying Gary's had none. Yeah, we've got 469 in the chat, so I don't want to go through everybody. But yeah, we'll get the picture. As you can see, it's clearly not something that we've done. It's clearly how you watch it, where you watch it, I guess which internet provider you've got. And Ian says, I've had loads of ads for hair growth products, Steve. I think they were meant for you. Cool. Mark Byers has said, I've had loads of ads on my phone, so I've switched to the TV and I've had none since. So there you go. And Simon's on to his 7th ad in the USA. And Mark Slavin says, if you pay for YouTube Premium, you don't get any ads. And Leslie says, the chat is freezing. Put a jumper on. I know you weren't talking about that way. And not loading comments, not just me and not just this channel. Yeah, so again, that was another glitch we got told about yesterday. Nothing we can do about that either. It's strange. But again, all I can say is reboot the computer and hope for the best. But maybe tomorrow it might work out. Dodgy VPNs some people are using, says Danny. And Ian says he loves us. Oh, thank you, Ian. Not as much as George loves your last, though. Okay. Moving swiftly on. We are halfway through the show. Hey,
you know that's true.
I tell you what, why don't we have some ads? A big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks again to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. If you'd like to order some, then give them a call on 01768 210 102
go to the website, mrvickies.co.uk, or drop them an email, info@mrvickies.co.uk. A big thanks to United Group Travel. They're a family firm based in Morpeth with pickups throughout the northeast. No strangers on our tours, just people you haven't met yet. They've got a presence on Facebook and a website, unitedgrouptravel.com. If you want to make a booking, give them a call on 01670 632 460 or mobiles 0791 666 4174 0795 71 41654. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals, independent funeral directors. Let us look after you in your time of need. They're based on Old Durham Road in Gateshead, and you can contact them at their website, darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Email darren@darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk, or give them a call, 0191 478 2730. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And a big thanks to New Workwear. You can find them at newworkwear.com. If you want to help the channel, hit the thumb up to subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and share to your other social media. You can also pay a one-off fee of £25 to get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card. Go to the website, nufcmatters.com, and click membership, or put your smartphone over this QR code. We also support the food bank on this channel. If you want to make some donations virtually, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a donation today. We're also a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast providers. Just search NUFC Matters. I'm also a part of the Northeast Footy Brekkie Show. You can listen to that Monday to Friday, 7 till 9 at the tooneuk.com. We've also got an event.
Okay, welcome back to NUFC Matters. I have put something in the chat here. Where is it? Somebody said, yes, Scunny Mag. Happy birthday, Scunny Mag, by the way. Happy birthday to Paul. If you open your browser in incognito mode, you shouldn't get the ads. They are targeted based on your browsing history. I think incognito stops that. So there you go, folks. A little bit of advice from Paul. His what 3 words are stop the ads. Try that, folks. Give it a go.
I thought they were dodgy internet history.
Yes, possibly. That's what Ian Toon Trader will have to worry about with his browsing history. But yes, away day guides. Thank you for that, Paul. I hope you've had a good birthday. And of course, the best birthday present for you is 3 points at Forest. And a big thank you to Andrew Malloy. No ads for me. YouTube Premium. He's just subscribed to the channel for 38 months. So thank you, Andrew. Now I've got to come up with 38 months worth of content. And thanks to Ray Burrow for making a donation to the Malverno Wine Fund, which I'm sure will be subbed by me, Steve, Mitch, and Stu in due course. Barry Hogan, yes, it is true. The Craft is potentially going to have a new contract. Eddie Howe said yes in the press conference to that question today, so hope that answers your question on that. Did get another question as well about the Super Bowl, which I will ask Mitch now before we go to the next segment. Kenya Mags, who's going to win the Super Bowl, Mitch? The best team of the 49ers or the team with a superior quarterback, Mahomes, with his sidekick, Kelsey? I go Kansas City 27-24. Mitch, have you got a prediction?
Well, as a Kansas City fan, and I've been for a long time before Mahomes arrived at the club, I'm back in Kansas City all the way. Everybody's been going out of their way to write them off all season, trying to belittle people's achievements and belittle the achievements of the team. Once they managed to get in the playoffs, and by all means, they haven't played well through the regular season. But you always had this feeling once they got to the playoffs, they had enough experience there that they would suddenly click. And they've done things in this playoffs that everybody said they wouldn't. They've won away from home. They've gone and silenced one of the best offenses. Really shut them down. everybody seems to be behind the 49ers now, but I quite like being on the side of the underdog again, while everybody's telling them they can't do it. I think Mahomes and Kelsey are the key in the offense, but everybody's ignoring how well the defense has played for Kansas City this season. And again, not a defense littered with superstars, but littered with people who just work their arses off. And I find it fascinating. They go all the way to the Super Bowl, and they're the only team throughout the whole of the playoffs. Of all the teams that qualified for the playoffs, they're the only ones who haven't had nominations for coaches and players of the year in every position. They've just basically been ignored. But that's because they're successful. And I see some parallels with Kansas City's journey in the last few years to ours at Newcastle United. Now, do you know what? I hope we follow the same journey, that once we start winning things, people hate it. And then I will love that. I will absolutely love that, because I love the hate being lumped on Mahomes and Kelsey at the minute in particular. Mahomes especially. And Mahomes is a generational talent. Some of the things he can do are not just exceptional, they're beyond that. Absolutely beyond that. And I would hope that the cream's going to rise in the Super Bowl on Sunday.
Okay, good stuff. There we go. My internet history is all nufc matters, Steve Wraith, says Ian. Good lad. Good lad.
Believe every word of it.
Yes, me too, mate. Me too. Okay, we are going to go into another segment, and it is Tune Lookalike. The standard does get better on this. Tom Dixon, thanks for this one. Gabriel Obertan or drum and bass star Goldie. Good one, mate. And this one from Tom as well. Demba Ba and Tyrese Gibson.
Yeah.
And Luka Modric and Johan Cruyff from Tom as well.
Definitely.
Those are really trying, aren't they, Steve?
Well, they are, yeah. Frank Ribery and Gary Neville. I would never have had that comparison. It's the angle that they're at, but yeah, very good. Another one of these, Ins de la Fressange and Anne Hathaway. George Clooney and Cary Grant. Very good. Slightly off, but I'll give you that one. And Ute Lemper and Greta Garbo.
Spooky.
Good one.
Yes, do like them, guys. Keep them coming in. Our new player Harrison and a young Craig Bellamy.
You can see that. Yeah.
I can as well.
Peter Beardsley's a big fan of the show. I'm sure he will take this one in good faith.
Wow. Oh, I don't think so.
Peter.
That even offends me, never mind Peter.
Thank you, Balderdash, for that one. I think maybe it's a tip to the haircut. Sutty, I know times are hard at Newcastle with only one incoming, but never fear, George Mitchell is preparing to make a comeback. And that's that was a video, so I couldn't really do it justice, but that looks like a young George Mitchell kicking a ball against the wall with his walking stick. So very good. Thank you. Next one. Let me get in. There we go. Sutty sent this one. Steve Wraith, and I was watching a James Cagney picture and didn't realize Steve was playing an extra in it. That's very good, that.
It isn't all.
Very good, mate. Thank you for that one. And another one was chucked in. Is that you, Steve? Angry Bury Chicken Shop boss? No, it's not me. I can conquer. This one. An Alan Shearer and an Alan Shearer tattoo. And poor Daniela Westbrook. And poor Cat. Top two, sorry. Is it top two? Top three? Top two. Number 2. Bruno's dad and Roy Keane.
That's good, isn't it?
And the winner this week, Jimmy Moore, Donald Trump, and a Cheeto. Great stuff. Keep the lookalikes coming in, and we will feature them on the show. We'll get all these questions usually aimed at Mitch. Alan Little says, what's your thoughts on the dental fiasco over here, Mitch? You could make a mint over here, but you probably already do, and it's always sunny there.
Right. The current dental contract that is failing is one of the reasons we moved over here. We had 3 practices, one with a very big NHS contract that generated probably about 30% of our business, but actually took about 70% of our time to manage. If we hadn't had the other practices and the other businesses associated, that practice would have failed. It was effectively a charity case. My biggest issue is that the dental contract that is now failing was introduced by Labour. So I've seen governments of red and blue fail NHS dentistry badly. The real problem is nobody's been prepared to address it, either in my time in the UK or since I left. And what the government seem to be happy to do is to allow practices to fail and dentists to have to make a decision about how they take their business forward and keep everything going, and withdraw from the NHS and blame the dentists. Look at these greedy dentists leaving the NHS. There's been plenty of articles in the Mail and Telegraph and others blaming my colleagues who are trying their very best. When I hear good people, like one gentleman who I won't name, who I used to work for, say to me that he's given up NHS contracts in his practices, that's a big statement, because that's somebody who his politics are somewhere left of Stalin. And for him to say, I can't make this work anymore, and for the sake of businesses, we're stopping it, is huge. Absolutely huge and devastating. And devastating for the communities he served. He's also been hit by Brexit, because he had dentists in those practices serving the NHS contract from Hungary, from Poland and from Finland, and they've all decided to go home. Can't do this anymore, won't do this anymore. So there's a manpower shortage as well. And it's all being blamed on this and on that, but let's be very clear. There's been a chronic underfunding in dentistry for the NHS for a long, long time, that nobody's been prepared to stand up and face, and nobody's been prepared to stand up and deal with. I can hear Harry, my grandfather, spinning in his grave like a top when I say the day I gave my NHS number up was probably professionally one of the best days of my career. And I feel horribly ashamed saying that from a social point of view, but from a professional point of view, that was the right decision for me, and I don't miss it. And I remind myself that every day that I'm out here, that I get home having seen 12 patients and think, I've had such a busy day. And actually, when I was in our NHS practice in Blythe, it wasn't unusual for me to see 40 or 50 patients a day. It's not sustainable. It never was. It wasn't sustainable 10 years ago. And it guts me because there's talented people have walked away. Very talented people have walked away who would have loved to have stayed if only it was feasible. And if a politician had had the guts, they were all frightened, I think, to be named as the health secretary who killed NHS dentistry. All it needed for somebody to do was to stand up and say, this system's screwed. It's knackered. It's not cash unlimited. We have to find a different way to make this work. And there are loads of ways to make it work. The system I quite like a lot is the system in Holland. Before I came out to Dubai, I nearly went to work in Holland. So I know the Dutch system very well. Their equivalent to the NHS doesn't cover everything because it can't. And they make that very clear from the off. But what it does do is leave people with access for pain and with oral health intact, an ability to function, to speak, to eat, and live their daily life intact without necessarily covering everything that people want. And I think that's the other side you have to look at. Anybody who comes to me and says, well, I've paid my stamp all my years and I'm entitled to this, that, and the other, the cash isn't there to do that. It can't. But nobody's got the balls to stand up and say that. I'll say it. 3,500 miles away, I've got no skin in the game anymore. And to be brutally honest and open, I've let my UK registration go. I fully intend never to work in the UK again in my life. And isn't that sad? That's something I worked 5 years undergrad. I've done thick end of 8 years postgrad. I've got 2 degrees. I'm a member of the fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons. And I can't be asked to keep my UK registration anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very sad, mate. Very sad.
Am I allowed an opinion?
But I don't want to turn it into a dental show. I only asked that question. I'm not going to go around the table.
But you see, I had to share the frustration that Neil had every weekend when we used to be together. The number of times he used to come home from work and say to me, he was sick because he'd had an accountant looking over his shoulder all day trying to tell him how to be a dentist. Or he'd had a lawyer in trying to tell him how to be a dentist. And that didn't surprise me one jot when eventually he just said, that's it. The other thing is that he never says it for himself, but I'll say it for him. When he became member of the Royal College of Surgeons, he was the youngest member in the world. Him up there. Okay, that's Dad saying enough. Okay.
That's good. No, good stuff. Yeah, I agree. The state of dentistry is awful, says Tim. And good man, Mitch. You work to get where you are, mate, and we back you, says Ian. So there you go. Lots of support in there. And Scunny Mags, he said, I've got me coat. He says, could be because there's no fully qualified dentists. They all seem to just be practicing. I'll get my coat, he says. Nice bit of humour there, Scunny Mag. What else was I going to say? Yes, in the chat, you'll have seen that I've pinned a Just Given page. Andrew, who's in the chat tonight, his brother is going to, he's a man of many talents. He's been through a hell of a journey, you will see. He is trying to raise £1,000. He's managed to hit £479. Trevor and Brody are running for Papyrus, which is the prevention of young suicide. They're doing the Great North Run on the 8th of September this year. It's in memory of Chloe Rose Bygate. Obviously, if you can support it, please do. And Papyrus is the national charity for the prevention of young suicide. And every £5 raised can contribute towards a life-saving contact to Hope Line 247. And your donations really are life-saving. So please give it some support if you can. They're doing the Great North Run. I know many people do it for charity, and you've probably got charities you want to support. But if you can support somebody in the NUFC Matters family, it would mean a lot. So I'll leave that pinned at the top of the chat. And please feel free to make a donation today. Okay, well, I've had lots of questions in tonight, and I'm trying to get out of the way of the political ones, maybe concentrate on a bit of football. Nicholas says, can you give the lasses a plug? Newcastle United women versus Portsmouth. We have mentioned it on the show this week, but St James's Park, FA Women's National League Cup semi-final, 25th of February, and it is 2 o'clock kickoff. So tickets are on sale for that now at the club website. Thanks, Nicholas, for pointing that out.
Isn't it just brilliant to hear the words Newcastle United in semi-final?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well done. Yeah.
Let's get behind them. And Alan posted this last week, and he's posted it again this week. Would any of the lads like to see a printed fanzine again, or is it a thing of the past? And do you see match programs going the same way? Printed fanzines are something I've specialised in for many years, Alan. The problem is that there's a lack of interest in them. The cost of making them has increased. The amount of advertising opportunities, which is what tends to make them tick, is limited because people don't see the value in advertising something in print. It's something that we've talked about. Me and Steve has talked about it. Me and Johnny Allen have spoken about it. Is the potential to do something NUFC Matters related? Maybe a website. Steve Hasty already does NUFC Fans United. He posts on Twitter. If you don't follow him, Old Hitonians, his Twitter handle. And he posts on NUFC Fans United on a regular basis, which was an umbrella group that we collectively set up many moons ago. So Steve does have his say on there. Maybe the website's the way forward. We do have nufcmatters.com. Maybe we can incorporate something within that. If there's a demand for it, we may well do it, but it's time. I know I've had one or two people approach us and say they would like to do it, Alan. They would like to write, but there's a lot of work goes into it. Editing's not an easy job. You've got to keep it right legally as well. So lots of things to think about, Alan. I'll never say no about going back into that kind of avenue, but at the moment there isn't time to do it. So yes, potentially, but not at the minute. Do I think fanzines and that are the future? I'd say no. And do I think the match program is going to go the same way? I think there'll always be a demand for a match program, but it's just whether the club will, whether clubs collectively will justify, printing them and getting them out there. It's we saw with the cup final ones. There was a shortage of them. The cup semi final, there was a shortage of them. I don't think clubs see the value of programs. But we'll wait and see, Alan. It's a good question, though. Thanks for sending that in. Forgive me for being the only one answering that, though. Okay, where else did we want to go? Yeah, this is an interesting one. Alan did put this question in, Mitch. I'm sick of hearing about Man U as Wembley of the North. That'll mean more taxis for London. Our talk of a possible new stadium didn't make a ripple in the national press. Where should we have a Wembley of the North? And if we did, where would it be? I mean, for me personally, this chat about the Wembley of the North all stemmed from Ratcliffe and Sir Jim Ratcliffe talking about potentially, improving the stadium. Old Trafford's fallen down, as we know, Mitch, as the song goes. But it's, when you look at what he's talking about putting in, it's not really going to touch the sides. And
Of course it's not.
He doesn't have control of Manchester United, Mitch.
No.
The Glazers do. So he could put £250 million in, which is a big deficit to what Sheikh Jassim was originally going to put in, 1.2 billion. But it's, for me, I wouldn't trust the Glazers. Will this ever happen? Who knows? But broaden the conversation just away from there. I mean, could Newcastle be the Wembley of the North with the potential new ground?
Depends what we do with it, and depends how we want it. The FA are very happy to bring games to Newcastle. We've got another one in the mix. One wonders what the levels of appeasement and tummy rubbing are behind that decision, but we'll take it. I think what you're seeing with this talk from Man United is exactly tied in with the takeover that's actually a buy-in, with what we've been told out here from people in the petrochemical world, that Ineos does not have the money that people believe he has, and he will not be able to put the money into Man United that he believes he has. And I think Man United and the people behind Man United are trying to set the national media and the national mindset that they will be helped with public money to build a new ground. There you go. Bollocks to giving them taxpayers' money. That's what they want. Why do they want it? Because they need it. The Glazers don't want to put it in. Ratcliffe doesn't have the money to do it himself. Where does the money come from? And therefore, this is them using their contacts in the national media to put into a mindset, we're building this thing, but not for us, for you, for the people, for everybody, a Wembley of the North, to bring games to the North, which is still 2.5 fucking hours away from Newcastle. But if they do it, they want public money to do it, and sod that. West Ham had enough of a boost inheriting an Olympic stadium that was never designed for football, that they've shoehorned football into to make it fit, because otherwise the government was going to be left with a white elephant on their hands.
And they get it for now.
Exactly. I don't think there's another football club in the Premier League would be stupid enough to allow that happen again, particularly to Man United. But that's what that's all about for me, is bringing it into the public mindset that, no, we're not doing it for us, we're doing it for everybody, for the good of football, and therefore, dear Mr. Sunak, can we have £500,000, please, to build a new ground for Man United? And that's bullshit. Absolute bullshit. And so, in a nutshell, you're seeing the limitations of the so-called takeover at Man United. It's not a takeover, it's a buy-in. It's a buy-in and a handing over of football operations to someone who purports to have a hell of a lot more money, fluid, than he does, and he genuinely doesn't. What we're being told over here in this part of the world from petrochems is that Ineos, with their commitments to other sports, in particular cycling, Formula One, and America's Cup, are pushed at their limit in terms of what they can put into Man United, and the most of that money is being used in buying the shares. So this is what this game is. The game to put into the public media and the public mindset that if the government might help you, it'll be beneficial for everybody. Bugger off.
Yep, we've discussed that, Mike, at the top of the show. Maybe you haven't tuned in early enough, but we have talked that to death, mate. So tune in to the early part of the show if you can. Yeah, Wembley of the North, George, in Manchester. Perfect place for it.
I've got to say, the whole notion, whether it's Manchester, Newcastle, or anywhere else, it just goes over the top of my head. We need a national stadium that's exactly that, and support it as best we can, so that as many people as can get the chance to go to it. That's my view. And Manchester United, well, Ratcliffe gave the game away, didn't he? His first or second sentence was, of course, the government will give with the levelling up money. The levelling up money would all go to bloody Manchester for a stadium. Bah, Jove. No way. You know, there'd be a revolution if they did. Or would they? I don't know. And Neil's right. Even the little I know about Ineos comes from the America's Cup. And compared to what he puts into the America's Cup, the money he put into Manchester United was small change. And then on top of that, he's got the cycling. And then he's got the motor racing. How can he? You know, even if he was, he'd have to be, you know, Bill Gates again, ×2, if he was going to do all that. So it's fairly straightforward for me. His second sentence was, well, we'll get the government to give with the levelling up money. Well, will you? Not my watch, bunny lad. The other thing is that, of course, the Glazers will sit back and let it happen and be really pleased if it happened, and then seek the next broker that can give them a mortgage on it so they can get some more money. You know, it sticks out like a bloody sore thumb. Every chance this money goes into that club, they take some out in another way, in loans or all sorts of things. But it's just a mess, and just reflects on the state of finance and ideas in football at the moment. You know, there's lots of ideas to do all sorts of things, but not many of them relate to football, as far as I'm concerned. They're about money and people making money and finding out schemes to make money. They're very little to do about the game I love.
Steve?
Jim Ratcliffe, what a lovely guy. Lives in Monaco, tax exile. Great. Man United, company owned in the West Indies. Great. Shares float on the New York Stock Exchange. Brilliant. You know, other owners live in Florida. Yes, this is the big. And what do they want? They want government money. The only thing they haven't thrown into the pot is the money they want is the money that they've already had for PPE. That's the only thing that was missing from that in terms of the rip-off, because that's what it would be. It would be a complete and utter rip-off. If a penny of taxpayers' money went to Manchester United, let's remember they've shouted for long enough that they are the richest club in Britain, the most successful club in Britain, the club with more money than anything, the club that turns over more money, that's constantly sitting alongside Madrid and battling with Madrid to be at the top of the rich league. You know, and then we'll get an owner who comes in, buys 25% of them and says, we'll use taxpayers' money to build us a new stadium because the one we've got that we haven't put any money in for 15 or 20 years is now falling down. Well, everybody else has to suffer. No, get stuffed, Jim Ratcliffe. That's all I would say. Get stuffed.
Gone down well, that, hasn't it, with Steve Hasty? Jules says, do I sense sarcasm? I think so, yeah. The corruption is clear and obvious.
But again, this comes back to what we were talking about earlier, when they're talking about sustainability and finances. The one thing that Man United carry, that other of the top clubs in Europe carry, is a significant amount of debt.
Yeah.
And that's never taken into consideration when you talk about sustainability. And it should be. Because how else have Tottenham got what they've got? They're carrying touching 800 million worth of debt.
Yeah, nearly $1 billion, yeah.
Man United, similar. The way the Glazers bought it using effectively leverage. Real Madrid, Barcelona are running out of financial levers to pull because even the Spanish La Liga and UEFA are getting sick of saying this is just a piss take now. and so all of these things need to be taken into consideration where you talk about financial sustainability, because otherwise, why is a club like Man United, the so-called jewel in the crown of English football, coming out with statements saying that they might want public money to help them build a new ground? There's a 2-word answer for that, and we all know the second word's off.
Okay, great stuff. This is when you want your government to have an instant response and say, "Who the are you? Do you think you are, Mr. Ratcliffe?" Says Mark Ritchie. Very good stuff. Yes, a big shout out as well in the chat to the Nut Job podcast, Chasing the Light. Thank you ever so much for sharing my fundraising page at the top of your show. It's very kind. Running in memory of my beautiful daughter, Chloe Rose. Thank you for the donations. Thanks to everybody who's already chipped in.
Good luck.
To that.
Good luck.
Yeah. Good luck. Best of luck with that. And fantastic.
It was.
Donald, great way of describing it. Man United, all fur coat and no undergarments. Very good. Very good.
Every one of the clubs that showed interest in the European Super League, you'd apply that to.
Yeah.
Yes, you
No
could.
fur coat, all underclothes, no underclothes, and constantly flashing their bits at we, tell them how great they are.
All right, time for Tweet of the Week. Don't forget, if you've got a tweet to us on Facebook, on our group, or on our page, that would be great. Here's the most stolen object of all time, lads.
If it's on the table, it's fair game.
When I die, I'm going to leave everything to you. You already do. Very good. And this one, this was for the lookalikes, and I missed it, lads, so I'll chuck this in now. Will Porter, a.k.a. Kenny from the Millers, and Sid from Toy Story. That was excellent, by the way. Sorry, 100% Mags, I missed that one out before. Steve Bennett, please tell me her last name is not Brick.
Yeah.
And Harley, David, and Son. Thanks, Stephen Kennedy. Is that how the bike started? On sale, a Freudian slip.
Oh, wow.
$49.99. And I've been pestering my husband for weeks to put the new door chain on, and all I've got is, I'll do it tomorrow. Well, I've done it myself. Us women are just as good as you men when it comes to DIY. I'm feeling proud. Girl power. Excellent.
Might need to do it again.
If your eyes hurt after drinking coffee, lads, take the spoon out.
Oh.
And got home real late last night after a full day of golfing, drinking, and hanging out with the guys. And my wife left a message in the kitchen. I think she wants me to eat more fruit, bless her heart. Will I complete my bucket list? Not yours, but somebody's. Excellent. Thank you. And this one. Do you remember the stupidest thing you've ever said? I do.
Oh. Yeah, the feminists grown for the year.
Looking for a bit of advice. What's the correct number of roses to give on Valentine's, lads? Is it 6, 12, or 24, or is it the whole tin?
Hey.
Yeah, I remember loading something on here a while back. So when I do that, I should do like the drum. You know, you get like the drum thing. I've got it somewhere. Here it is. There we go, lads. I've loaded it and it worked.
Well done.
Yeah, I'll have to stop. Well, it is. Yeah, well, I'll have to work out how I can do that to accompany the tweets as I'm tweeting them. This one, R2D2.
Oh, gee.
The pirate.
Yeah, me.
And whole boneless, skinless chicken. 50 cents each. You get somebody who'd buy that as well. That's from Jimmy Moore, needless to say. As was this one. When the bar owner has a sense of humour.
Brilliant.
And an easy mistake to make. Man disappointed after ordering 34-year-old escort online.
We're at a fortune now.
And imagine the trouble she has trying to introduce herself in France. It's Gemma Pell.
Gemma Pell. Nice one.
My daughter was doing her history homework and asked me what I knew about Galileo. I said, he was a poor boy from a poor family. Very good. Very good, Gary. I've seen this footballer doing the rounds.
Oh, it's good, that.
It is, yeah. A few people sent me that, so thank you. This one, how does a penguin build its house? I don't know. How? He glues it together.
Boom, boom.
Bro, why are you eating a pineapple? I heard it makes semen taste better.
Oh, jeez.
Wow, dear me.
Close to the bone, that one, but it was seamen, as in people who are in boats. A Spenny Mark, the cleanest toilet I've been in, the floor was immaculate. Masculate, sorry.
No, it should be immaculate.
Very good. The Beatles, very good.
Clever.
Very good. It's wonder nobody's done that earlier. An ugly camel, picture of the week. Kangaroos are just deer who went to prison. It's a classic, isn't it? And due to unforeseen circumstances, the dining room will be closed this evening. Sorry for the inconvenience. Open for takeout and delivery only. Certainly is the worst typo I've ever witnessed. And this one, when you get drunk and end up with a different group of people. Good one, that Ian. Thank you. And this one, clowns to the left of me, jokers on the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Very good.
Dear me.
And your name needs to go on the list. What is it? Don't tell him, Pike.
Yeah.
Yes, God bless him. We did lose another stalwart this year. And what about that for a diversion, lads?
Very good, very good.
Only in Great Britain.
Yep.
Top two, a married man's honest confession. I always read my wife's horoscope to see what kind of day I'm going to have. And the winner this week, convert any old hat to a smart Sherlock Holmes style deerstalker by draping a pair of socks down over your ears before donning the hat. Remember to catch the socks when your hat is doffed. Robert Stetson, Jedburgh. Can I beat Viz? Thank you for all your tweets. We'll have to send them in to us on Facebook, on the page, or on the group, and we'll feature them next week. Okay, Newcastle United take on Nottingham Forest, 5:30 live on Sky tomorrow night. And as always, we've got Scunny Mag to give us a little bit of an insight into where you can go when you're down there.
Hi folks, Scunny Mag Paul here again with another away day guide. This one's for Forest on Saturday evening. It's coming up next. Okay, Nottingham Forest. Getting there is pretty straightforward, with it being on the M1 corridor and the East Midlands main line. And if you are arriving on the train, you'll be coming into Nottingham Station, which is only around 20 minutes walk from the city ground itself. For those driving in, there's plenty of parking around Forest's ground and the neighbouring Meadow Lane. Match days will set you back around a £5, and there's also plenty of car parks further south, just past the Trent Bridge cricket ground. If you're looking to make a weekend of it, then there's a bunch of hotels. There is one just outside the front of the train station. It's called the Bentink Hotel. You can find it at 1A Station Street, November Golf 2-3 Alpha Juliet, and same stores hobby for those using the app. There are some good options for larger groups. The pick of these is the River Rooms Apartments, which is a stone's throw from the ground. These are laid out as full apartments rather than hotel rooms, but the price is still sensible with plenty available. The £219 option sleeps 6, so that's around £36 each, which is not bad at all. You can find them at 4-6 Radcliffe Road, November Golf 2-5 Foxtrot Whiskey, or Groups Wishes Motor for your what 3 words. Moving on to pubs, if you are staying at the River Rooms or using the car parks to the south of Trent Trent Bridge. And the Stratford Haven is a cracking little alehouse. It's set up brilliantly for match days. It's well staffed, great range, including some fantastic local real ales of varying strengths. I hit the strong ones on my last visit, and I'll be honest, they wiped me out. I hardly have any recollection of the game or getting home, but that's a story for another day. Your what 3 words to find it is Plenty Moon Rush. And then moving across the river, for those parking around Notts County Stadium, they open their in-ground bar, but it gets great reviews from visiting supporters. It's called the Broken Wheelbarrow, and your what 3 words is going to come in very handy here. Knots, laws, will. If you came in on train, then as you head into the ground, you'll find Hooters. It's big, holds plenty of fans. It's on the corner of Queen's Road and London Road, with your what 3 words being Single Twist Pump. And one last cheeky one, the Britannia, also known as the Rowing Club or the Boat Club locally, charges a nominal fee to get in. It used to welcome away fans, and since promotion back to the Premier League, it's definitely become more of a home-only kind of venue. But if you don't have distinctive accents or your colours, pay your subs on the door, you can head upstairs with little bother just before rolling into the ground. We've done this a few times. It's a great little venue with lots of history, so if you do get in, enjoy it. Good luck if you're giving it a try, but do behave. Don't ruin it for everyone, because they'll just end up properly clamping down on everything and checking tickets and stuff. Once you've finished drinking and you're ready to head in for the game, you'll be looking for the most easterly corner of the ground. If you approach from the river, you'll need to walk under the Trent end, turn right, and it's down the other end of the stadium. Your what 3 words for the visiting supporter turnstiles area is Hooray Friday Expand. Enjoy the game. That's it from me. Here's hoping for 3 points on the road again after a mental game against Luton at home last weekend, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Thank you, Paul, and as again, have a great birthday, mate. I'm sure I speak for everybody in the chat as well.
Yeah.
Have a great time, mate. So yeah, Newcastle travel to the Forest, and it's a big game. Injury update: well, Callum Wilson should be okay. Alexander Isak is out. Anthony Gordon won't make it. He hasn't trained all week, so doubt he will be involved tomorrow. Bruno Guimaraes, of course, has the suspension hanging over him. He's got to go 9 more games without a booking to avoid the 2-match suspension. Anthony Gordon, of course, has got 2 Premier League yellow cards to go before he is suspended. There was updates on Willock and Anderson. They aren't too far away, but neither have trained with the first team, but they are up in their recovery. Harvey Barnes hasn't shown any ill effects and is expected to play, although Eddie Howe did say that he would prefer not to, but just the way things are, he's going to have to be involved tomorrow. So we, as always, have an insight from Toon Stato. So he is coming up next.
Hello everyone, with a pick of the stats before tomorrow's game. Newcastle at the City Ground. We haven't lost there in the top flight since 1987, 7 consecutive games without defeat. Funnily enough, we lost both games in the Championship back in 2010 and back in 2016 in December. Nottingham don't have a win in calendar year 2024, and they have lost 5 of their last 6 home games in the Premier League, which is as many defeats as they had in the previous 18 months since they came back to the Premier League in 2022. Newcastle, on the other hand, after drawing 4-4 with Luton last weekend, is probably the most entertaining side again in the Premier League, with 48 goals scored and 37 conceded, 85 goals in total, the most out of any team in the Premier League total goals. The 37 conceded, however, are 4 more than the 33 that Newcastle conceded in total last season, which shows that there might be some issues in defense. Kieran Trippier in defense after Luton has 9 assists and is well on track to become the first player since Laurent Robert to record the double-digit number of assists in a season. Robert did 11 back in 2001-2002. Nobby Solano famously did 15 in 99-2000. Luckily for us, our bogeyman Chris Wood will not play after scoring that famous hat-trick on Boxing Day. He has scored 9 goals against his previous clubs, and he can join Messrs. Andy Cole, Niklas Anelka, and some other fellow players who have double-digit goals against their previous clubs. Let's see what tomorrow will show. Away the lads.
Okay, thank you, Andre. As always, great to have your input. And 1987, Gaza scored, but then Newcastle lost down there in a top flight game. That's the last time we actually lost at the City Ground. Obviously, we didn't do so well in the Championship. But Steve, big game again for us. It's our next one, and time to put the record straight against Forest, who beat us. And no Chris Wood tomorrow. I think that's going to play its part.
Yeah, I mean, just from a psychological perspective, it's already played a part when we heard that he's not going to be available. Hamstring injury, I think said. Yeah, it's an important game, but you know what? Every game now is going to be important. We said it last week. We thought we were back on the straight and narrow. We thought, we went for a big win, we didn't get it. Nobody could foresaw a 4-4 draw. I mean, it was a really good game. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Nerve wracking. I lost all my nails at one point, chewing them. It was just one of those performances. But we've got to get back to winning ways. We've got to start getting points. The cup is going to be our priority, but I think Eddie himself said that the league, we're looking at, we're not that far away from where we want to be in terms of a European spot. I think European spot is very, very important for Newcastle United in terms of the progression. Some fans will be disappointed if we don't make the Champions League again. Other fans will be disappointed if we don't make either of the other European competitions. But for that alone, and I think just listening to some of the players, they'll be disappointed as well. Probably got really good bonuses stacked up if we can get into European competition again. But that's probably another side of the story. I expect we're to go in with virtually the same team. I think Dan Burn will play. I think the back four basically picks itself and probably will again tomorrow. We're struggling up front now. Gordon's out injured. We've got Wilson back. Wilson will start. There's no question about that. Eddie said in his press conference that Wilson had been involved in training all week, so that was a positive. One of the few positives. Willock's still not available. I saw somebody on Twitter say that they're half expecting Tonali to be back before Willock, the way things are going. And I'm beginning to wonder if he's right. It's going to be nearly 9 months really for Willock. Barring that small little cameo he had in November, where he had a couple of games, which is it must be so frustrating for the lad, because I think if we had Willock available, I think that would make a big difference for Dan Burn. I think it would make a big difference for Bruno as well, and also for Sean Longstaff, because it's another runner, it's not someone with legs, and he can get goals when you want them. So I think it's an important game. Do you want my prediction now, Steve?
Yeah, let's have your prediction now, Steve.
I'm gonna go with the same as Stan Cullimore said this afternoon on the radio, where he actually went for a penman. He didn't mention penman, but I think he meant to. He went for 3-1, and I agree with Stan, even though it's against his old club. And I think the very fact that it looks like Gibbs White is struggling to make the lineup. They've had a few other changes, and I think that hot spell that they had, beating us. And Nuno in what was one of his first games, I think that's gone by the wayside now. I think that they're going to struggle for the rest of the season, and I think we'll pick up maximum points with a 3-1, Steve.
All right, George, how do you see the game going?
2-0 to us. It is important in as much, not just as a result, but to see we get back on track. Last Saturday was a giveaway. It really was. And Steve's right. I mean, it was so exciting. I mean, the poor lad in front of me, the back of his seat must have dents in it. I was getting that excited. So I don't want any more of that. The only excitement I want is balls in the onion bag at the Forest End and nowhere else. So I'm going with 2-0 for us.
Okay, Mitch, give us your thoughts on the game first and foremost, and then we'll go for the dice and then your prediction.
Well, they've obviously come through with a long cup tie. I think they played something like a total of 138 minutes through the week in the cup. They're missing 3 or 4 players to the African Cup of Nations still because they've got through to the final. Gibbs White wanted to come off in that cup game, but they'd used all their subs, and that's why he's struggling for the game at the weekend. Maybe the luck's run out a little bit. It's time that we pass the injury back on to somebody else. We certainly owe them one, and I think everybody within the dressing room will understand that we owe them one. And if Wood's missing, that's another benefit.
Yeah.
I do worry that we're relying on Wilson to get through 90 minutes without much in the way of backup. I've heard rumours that they've been working on a formation with Fabian Schär at centre forward. I hope that's wrong. I hope that's bullshit. But you've got to have some sort of backup plan, I guess. But the bottom line is we should, like we did on Boxing Day, have enough to put this side away without being disrespectful to Forest.
Yeah.
We should have enough in where if we play to our ability, no matter who starts, and we keep that intensity, no matter who else comes off the bench, that we should be able to put Forest away. And we should have done that on Boxing Day, and we couldn't. The mentality, I think, is more than anything else. That's the next thing I was going to come to. We have to break the Nuno hoodoo, if you will. He does seem to have a very good record, and if that's that was kind of what I understood. I don't know if we had managed to beat them once, but maybe we haven't. And if that's the case, that's something else. Records like that are always there to be broken. And historically, we used to be the one that would allow teams to break that. If you hadn't had a centre forward who scored in 12 goals, come to St James's Park, you can have a couple. You know, hadn't won at home in a calendar year. Newcastle arrive 3-0 loss. You know, that always used to be us. And records like that are always there to be broken, and we make far too much about them. It's all about what happens on the day. And if we turn up with the right mindset and the right ability, we should be able to put them away.
Okay, get the dice out, lad.
The dice. The dice says, 1-2, which I would take all day long, to be fair, if it was 3 points. I actually think we'll do them 2-0.
Okay, I've gone 2-1.
And if you're looking for the away end, the what 3 words are big hairy minge.
Oh dear God! I'm lost for words. We've got 12 minutes. We've got 12 minutes.
I'll get you 3 more if you like, Steve.
No, thank you.
That's my boy.
We've got 12 minutes left. Let's talk about blue cards, because I'm about to give Mitch a red one. Steve, blue cards. This is a crazy suggestion. Eddie Howe's not happy about it either.
No.
Sin bins and blue cards, Steve. Is this a great idea, or is this something which we could do without?
It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Yet again, people in IFAB who have got nothing else better to do, coming up with ridiculous ideas that they then not only throw at us, but actually try to convince the press is a good thing. You know, it's basically something that you get the impression some bloke in IFAB was sitting having his breakfast, and one of his bens said, "Why don't I have a blue card?" And he's went, "Oh, hey, that's a good idea."
That's a good idea.
And ran with it. That's what it's like. It's pathetic. It's stupid. There are enough rules and enough ways for a referee to stamp down on anything that he feels he needs to in a game, because he's the referee. He can do whatever he likes. I mean, he can use a yellow card. He can use a warning. He can point a finger. He can stick a finger in somebody's eye if he wants to. You know, you name it, he can do it. He doesn't need another blue card to send somebody into a sin bin. And I listened to Jamie Carragher, who summed it up nicely, and so did. It's as though they had it worked out between them, him and Murphy, and who said, you know what? Teams will just go into a low block, send somebody in, they'll just go onto a low block for 10 minutes. It's just like playing 11 against 10 on the training pitch. You do it every week. That's how you test each other. You go 11 against 10, see how you can cope in a little session. And he says, and it's basically teaching you how to do a low block. He says, and that's what they'll do at 10 minutes. He says, basically take a break. He says, and the other team will spend 10 minutes trying to break you down, and then they'll be knackered. And then the player will come back on, and then you'll gain the advantage because the other teams just ran themselves stupid trying to break your low block. It's crazy, but for some reason these people in IFAB get the run of everything. You know, it's as though that we know that there's a set of rules and a set of laws of the game, and they are there to disrupt, because that's what they do. You know, I mean, they can't even get the blooming VAR right. You know, come back when you've got VAR right, and then start talking about other things, and we'll tell you what else you're doing wrong. But no, there's absolutely no need for a blue card. And then for us as a league to immediately jump in and go, oh yeah, we'll do it. Why? Is that to reflect on the fact that we can't get the VAR right? You know? I mean, when you're in a situation when VAR takes 4 and 5 minutes for a decision to be made because referees and the people sitting in the little shed want to go back, or well, just have a look at that little bit of play and then that little bit, trying to find ways of getting a goal disallowed. Either scrap VAR and throw away these ridiculous ideas. And I mean, I'm going to be, I know George will agree with this. Let's get back to goalkeepers being able to roll the ball, bounce the ball, do whatever they like with the ball. Let's get back to 6-second rule. I think it's still there, the 6-second rule for goalkeepers. Yeah. And let's teach players, George, how to take throw-ins properly. Stamp down on that. Then the game will move a bit quicker and a bit better.
What happens if a goalie gets a blue card? Nobody's answered that question, you know. Mitch, blue coming out of the tube.
Blue is the magic number.
Do you know what? Let's give them a green card and a pink card, and give both managers 2 reversal cards, and just turn the thing into a whole fucking big game of Uno.
Yeah.
Newcastle won 4-1. However, as they didn't show Uno as they played their last card, Nottingham Forest win 3-0 by default. I mean, where does it end? Because VAR's gone so well. We need another layer to the cake to complicate it, don't we? We just need that, because that's what the game's screaming out for. It's absolutely ridiculous. It makes no sense at all to me. What it does show is the absolute level of inadequacy in our officials to apply the rules of the game properly and use a yellow card properly. You wouldn't need to be talking about a blue card for certain things. You just wouldn't if they had the balls to apply a yellow card properly. And I still say if they applied yellow cards properly and clamped down on dissent by use of a yellow card, you'll have 4 or 5 games which end 8-9. And then everybody will get the message and it'll calm the fuck down.
Yeah, this is another good one from Mark Byers. What happens if there's a team ruckus? 10 blue cards at once. Do we watch an empty pitch for 10 minutes?
That's right. You know, one of them big 22 failures that appears in certain games at certain times, particularly in South America. What do you do with that? It's a nonsense. It's an absolute nonsense, and it's a reflection of the poor levels of officiating that they're trying to think daft ways around things, when what they should be doing is they've got very good rules that apply for yellow cards and red cards. VAR should be simplified. And they shouldn't be taking 20 minutes, nor should they be doing things like using shadows to guess where somebody is. If they can't tell it on VAR within a certain period of time, guess what? That tells you there's enough doubt about it to just let it be.
Yeah.
And you'll still get some things wrong, and you'll still get more things right. And that's where, when you introduce video refereeing into any other game, into cricket, into American football, into rugby, yes, there was a teething period, but nothing like the farce that we've had. Nothing like it. Because the focus and the outcome, you've got to be outcome focused here. What we're trying to achieve with video refereeing, what we're trying to achieve is to improve the quality of decision making, so we get, rather than get 92% of the decisions right, we get 97% of decisions right. You're still going to get some wrong. That's because there's humans involved in it. And you're still going to get some wrong. There's still going to be somewhere where there's interpretation, where there's somebody has to take into account something with a human input. And so you can't be. We're not machines. At least last I looked, we haven't turned into Skynet. So introducing something like blue cards just complicates the matter, gives referees something else to think about. And do you know what? They've got enough to think about. They've got far more than enough to think about. and it just becomes a farce. It just becomes an absolute farce. So yeah, give the managers 2 reversal cards, one they can use in each half, and they'll reverse the decision, and then do not pass go, do not collect $200, go straight to jail, unless it's a Wednesday and your middle name's Gary and you're wearing red socks, then a different rule applies. And this is where we're going with it. And football in its essence is a simple game. That's why it's universal. That's why it's loved around the world. In its essence, it's a simple game.
There's another one. Muzz says 5 minutes ago, our goalie gets a bluey against Liverpool. It'll happen, mark my words.
Yeah.
And what do you do with that? Do you get a free substitution? Are you allowed to bring a goalkeeper on for a period of time?
Just
like, for example, when you lose a prop or a hooker in rugby and you're allowed to bring somebody on to not make it uncontested scrums, it starts to get these, what people sometimes see as small changes. Once you dig down into how it might affect the game of football, it starts to become like rocket science.
Is VAR going to check if the blue card decision is right?
Don't.
Pablo says, we're a big fan then. Yes, we are.
Yeah, massively.
Sean says, thoughts on introducing multi-balls on the 90th minute mark?
Exactly. You might as well go down that route. This is exactly where we're at. You might as well introduce multi-balls at 90 minutes. And oh God, it's just ridiculous. Rush keepers, or where do we go?
Unbelievable.
Football is a universal game loved by so many people around the world. Why? At its core, it's so simple, and everybody around the money of football wants to complicate it and take that simplicity away, and that'll kill it. It'll kill everybody who loves this game.
It will. It will. George will give you the last say on blue cards, mate.
Well, I'll try.
Are you a big fan?
I'll try and keep it clean. Actually, I like Ian's strap before my three words. Emily is hot. That was lovely. Anyway, to get back to football, and that's the problem. We're getting away from football with all this rubbish. Neil's right. It's a simple game. 11 each side, 2 goals in a ball, and you stick the ball in the back of the onion net, and that's everybody happy. Why complicate it all? Why complicate it all with all this stuff? And then it's all the things that go with it, as you lads are pointing out. What happens if a goalie gets a blue card? What happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? The trouble is, I wonder how many of these people that think of these things have ever seen a football match or ever played in a football match. Because I'm not sure they could. If they really did, they wouldn't be doing all these stupid things. They really are mad. And for, me as a supporter, they drive me insane. Poor Steve has to sit next to me in games. And I think, why did they do that? That's not allowed. But the referee just ignores it. And I wasn't going to use the word throw-ins, but that's true. On Saturday, go back to the Luton game and look at 2 of the Luton goals. And they came from our throw-ins. Supposed to be our advantage. And it ended up in the back of our net about 30 seconds after we took our throw-in. So, let's stick to the rules we've got and get them right. And they're not at the moment. Some of the challenges at the moment, poor Wilson against that big lad last Saturday when Wilson came on. Wilson would have had to be an all-in wrestler to get out of some of the holes he was putting on him. Not one whisper. Casemiro the other night for Manchester United strangled the bloke, a West Ham bloke in the penalty area. Didn't even get spoken to, never mind give a penalty. When we start getting that right, then we can think about other things. But please make them sensible. Please make them football-related. And don't make them negative, because everything about that blue card is negative, as the guys have already been saying. First thing the team will do is you get 10 men behind the ball, and that's the end of the game for 10 minutes. It's just, well, it gets me speechless. I get so upset about it. Anyway, no, not for me. And the last one on VAR, the next time there's a magic weekend at St James's Park with the Rugby League, they should get the whole lot at Stockley Park in a bus and bring them and sit them into St James's Park and watch how the Rugby League guys handle it. It's on the screen. The fans hear every word that's said from the referee up to the box where they make the decisions. See that angle, I want to see this angle. You hear it all, and in less than a couple of minutes, sorted. Nobody's upset about it. And yet we've had experience at St James's Park in that Arsenal match. We've sat around for nearly 10 minutes, and players stood in the cold on the pitch for nearly 10 minutes for 3 looks at VAR. Get all that right and then talk about something else. Because so far, as a fan, you're just doing everything you can to frustrate the football, to frustrate the positive side of football, which is the ball going in the back of the net. Steve's right. Goalkeeper's far too protected. And that clown at Everton started this business about every time he gets the ball, he dives forward and he lies on it. Well, okay, give him 6 seconds lying on the ball and then give him an indirect free kick. He won't do it again. Yeah. Although he's so thick, he probably will. But, you know, let's get all that put right before we start stupid ideas like blue cards. And I'll go before I get a red card.
See what you think, Dad. See what you think.
Yeah, see what you think. Here's the music for the PGMOL. Told you had some new music.
It's funny. It's funny. Mitch said before that it's a simple game. I went to many years ago. I went to Alexandra, which is a township in Johannesburg, and there was a game on a dust bowl of a pitch. And this kid was flying down the wing. And the fullback came over to do what Dan Burns should have done last week. And he took the winger out by the waist. I'm not kidding. He sent them about 15, 20 yards through the dust. And then this little referee comes running. He must have ran 80 yards. He was about 4'2". And he ran up to the fullback. And then he went and he checked every pocket you could possibly imagine, and then found a bit of yellow paper the size of a metro bus ticket and slapped it in his face. That's how simple the game is.
Yeah.
Brilliant. How would that referee cope without a yellow card, I wonder?
Great stuff. What a show that was. We can always say it's a great show when we don't realise, we've ticked all the boxes, but the feedback's been great. Some great stuff in the chat. Hope you enjoyed it. Just enjoy the game, enjoy the result. Please make a donation to the link at the top of the chat just before it disappears if you haven't already. And seeing as though Julie's in the chat, we don't do it anymore, but here's the cat. Still hanging around. It's still hanging around. Go on, George. Go on.
Well, I'm slating the idiots that run football now, but they used to do it before. I'll remind you about my first game. Newcastle versus Barnsley, 3rd round of the Cup, first leg. And they hadn't even thought out, would the replays be on 2 legs? Yeah. I mean, that's how ridiculous they are.
Yes, never changed. They've never changed. Okay, I will be back tomorrow with Eddie Howe's press conference review. Keep an eye on that. That'll be sometime in the morning. I'm going to pre-record a really good podcast as well. I've finally managed to make time, and so has this man, to come on and talk about the 2 statues that are at St James's Park. Tom Maley's going to pop on the show and talk about making and designing the Shearer and the Sir Bobby statues. You get a chance to ask him some questions. I might do that live tomorrow if I can sort out a time with him. Something a little bit different, that, guys. And maybe you can ask him which statue we would like to do next, or has he spoken to the club? A couple of questions I'll be asking him as well. But back with the professionals as well this weekend, 6 o'clock till 7:30. So please tune in to that as well. Have a good day tomorrow, lads. And Mitch, see you on Sunday.
Cheers, everyone.
Good to see you, lads, as always.